Ladies and gentlemen, how's everyone doing today? My name is Javon.
I'm Kevin.
We're going to discuss a film that came out in 2014. Miles Teller stars as Andrew, and J.K. Simmons with his Oscar-winning role as Terrence Fletcher in the film Whiplash. When I first saw this, to be honest, it was something that I knew was going to be just as good as it turned out to be. And it's always rewarding when you find a film that falls into position with all the right pieces. I'm not going to give away my actual way, whether I fell to the left or the right of it ultimately. But just as an introduction, Kevin, how did you feel about Whiplash?
So when it came out, you'd think I'd be all over it since it's about music.
Yes.
But I actually missed it when it first came out. I don't know why. But anyway, I saw it recently. Saw it recently with my wife. I should have seen it when it came out.
Right.
I think that's really my only regret. But since it's about music, I have strong opinions about the whole music thing. Even though it's a part of music that I didn't get into. I didn't go to like a music school. But there are things that we're probably going to talk about. I do wish I had seen it earlier, but it was definitely worthwhile.
Definitely. It's funny how a studio band, which I came to realize, seems to parallel a sports team, and also what I believe parallel the coach's role on that team. You have some coaches that are feared and almost revered. I went to Norcom in Portsmouth, Virginia, and the football coaches, had legends, as well as some of the basketball coaches. You've got different styles. You have some that are like drill instructors. You have others that can take on like a fatherly role. And so in this case, J.K. Simmons' character, Terrence Fletcher, is someone that you don't want to cross under any circumstances. And Andrew, Miles Teller, plays the role of the average guy who wants to sign up for something that's been on his mind, and something that you find out he was actually born to do. And to throw a question to you, how do you feel about the effectiveness of Terrence Fletcher's way of instructing his students? Do you think that it was a bit too much? Do you think that it proved the end result? Or do you think that it was somewhere in the middle? It had positives and negatives.
So right off the bat, I will say that I think most people would say that Fletcher's instruction was abusive. There was a question that what's the young man's character's name? That Andrew asked him towards the end. I mean, with the way that you're getting these results, that you're extracting this talent from your students, are you crossing a line that would discourage someone whose talent has yet to be seen? And then, of course, his answer was, somebody on like say Bird's level, they wouldn't get discouraged.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So when I look at the things that Fletcher did and seemed to get away with for most of the film, I think back to like when I was in a similar position, when I taught music, when I was the music director for my church's choir. I had a bunch of youth under me, and I hope I never did anything like what Fletcher was doing, because it's like, and it's a different setup, of course, that I was working with, people who are volunteers, who don't get paid if it is, who, with actual minors. And this is like folks who are adults. Okay, so those are differences. But I would have had the same question, like the things that you were doing, what kind of return on investment are you getting for all the people who you are damaging with what you say is trying to pull out the talent of a Charlie Parker? I mean, you've been at this for years.
Mm-hmm.
How many birds have you grown with your methods? We heard about the guy
that committed suicide.
The guy who committed suicide.
Right.
And then he turns around and lies about it to the class and tells them that, brings the sob story for who knows what reasons that, this person was hit with a car accident. So with that rationalization, I don't fully buy it. But again, I mean, who's to say? It's a character in a movie, whatever. I mean, I do know that, I mean, if you want perfection, you're going to strive for perfection.
Right.
My question, again, would be the same thing as Andrew's, like, what are you willing to do to get that perfection? And what will it cost in the end? So
that's the point.
With this dude, Andrew was, of course, very, very damaged. The other guy was driven to suicide. I mean, so many other bands and performances could have come up under Fletcher and got
right
had he not been swinging literally at everybody. So I think of what could have happened had he not been as abusive and still having high standards and found a way to get his pupils to meet those standards without slapping people upside the head. Without finding out about their deepest, darkest fears and then ridiculing them for it. Twice in Andrew's case, when he found out about that his mom left him.
Right, and use that as like a weapon.
Yeah, use that as a weapon twice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The man even sabotaged his own career after he changed jobs.
Yeah.
That failed to give the drummer the sheet music.
Exactly.
I mean, and yes, this guy's main career was over. Maybe he had nothing left to lose. But I mean, you're doing all these things, and I start to wonder, is this really about finding the next bird, or do you just like hurting people?
Ooh, that's a great point. That's a great point.
That's what I think of those methods. I think there are ways, and it has been done. I mean, in real life.
Right.
You can have high standards, and you have to have high standards as a professional musician. You do.
Right.
You can do it without being abusive. So that's kind of my whole thing all the way through. And then there's like some things in the movie that I'm thinking, I wondered through most of the movie, there's no way anybody can get away with these things. There's no way. Did y'all see this man? This man is bleeding from his head and his hands.
Right.
No one's gonna say anything about this. Like, judges, pay attention. But it's fine. It's a movie. Deal with it.
It's funny because I've seen times in high school where my friends had stories of the coaches going over the line. And I think Fletcher said a line in the movie or his character said a line in the movie that summed up every way that he felt. It was, there are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. So you're already striving for something that is unattainable by the masses. You're saying that anything less than perfection is unsatisfactory. And if it means you hurling a cymbal at someone's head, if it means someone having to play the drums until they bleed. And think about for a second that whole 3-person revolving around to try to get that one position, and how he carried that on for the course of an entire day, where he tells the rest of the class, y'all go on home. I'm trying to deal with these 3 and figure out which one is good enough to get that role. It's you're right. In a lot of ways, it's something that will strip a person of their even not only wanting to be in that class, but second guessing their gifts or what they want out of what it is they're trying to attain. But the movie gave us the end, which is Andrew wound up becoming a better person because he wasn't taking failure as his final level. He wasn't going to be like his father was. His father was, I think, a novelist or something who had never attained what he wanted to. And so he was fine with his son just saying, all right, well, I tried, on to the next thing. And that scene at the table, at the dinner table, showed what I believe a lot of people go through when they have dreams, but have the people sitting across from them, the people who are in their lives, the people who should be lifting them up, saying, oh, you know better than the next person. My son, he did all that. This person over here, he's done that stuff too. What's so big about it? And it took Andrew saying, I'm not going to stop at failure. I'm going to dig in deeper, because at that point he had to sacrifice his relationship that he was, starting to groom with the girl. He had to kind of exclude himself from his family, and them coming and checking on him when he's soaking his hands in the ice water because he's been going so hard. It's weird because it's like the movie suggests that while Terrence was wrong in a lot of different ways, the end result was the same. It was different for the person who committed suicide. It was different for the people who sat with him in that class, who were so scared that, even simple things like keeping your folder became tasks because they knew this dragon was going to breathe fire on them if they didn't do what he demanded. So it was a good exploration of when to say when, what is too much, and what is on the fault line of going too far or actually creating the effect that you desire. On a side note, I gotta try that putting the raisinettes in the popcorn, like Andrew and his dad did in the movie theater or whatever. I'm like, I don't see how I've never thought of that before. But as I said before, Andrew had to sacrifice his blood. He had to sacrifice his relationships. He had to be embarrassed. And that's almost like trial by fire. It's like you're being thrown in and you have to either claw your way out or you burn up. Which one is it? And so, that's a tough pill to swallow. What do you think about the other acting roles? Paul Reiser as his father, Jim, anyone else who may have stood out? Or what do you think of, the acting as a whole?
I think this movie could have been a two-person play. For all the effect anyone else had on the movie. We're talking about perfection. We're talking about striving for perfection. We're talking about, the sacrifice that you have to do to get at a certain level in whatever. Yes. The only characters I really noticed were Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons.
That's true.
Not that other people were bad, but I think they took up so much space in this movie. I think that in my mind, there was little room for anyone else. That everybody else was there as it related to the main co-stars. So that's I don't have much of an opinion about anybody else. I think everyone else in there was to reveal something about one of the two characters, or maybe both of them. Like even like the little girl who showed up that Fletcher was talking about. She talking to her dad because maybe you can grow up to play for him. And I'm thinking, is he going to throw a chair at her face when she comes of age? That's
great point.
That's what I'm thinking of. Just everyone in relation to one or two of the main characters. So that's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to bring up really quick is that I could find it's a movie. It's dramatic. If it's boring, who wants to see it? My hope is that people who see this movie and aren't much into music, I would hope that people find a way to enjoy music, because I did not see that here. I found all of the abuse. And even the thing you brought up with the revolving door of the three drummers, where two of them were thrown in there just to get the best out of the first one.
When
I play in a band, the thing that I've enjoyed about playing in bands and playing in choirs is the sense of community that you have to do to get a piece of music done well. I feel that at least for those moments, it's a little bit like a family. the musicians and even in I played for choirs and even with the singers and the people on the instruments and the director and all that stuff. I mean, that is where I have found success. And again, I mean, I'm not like a professional musician, so I know that's a little bit of a different setup where you're not there to make friends, but I believe that setting people against each other, especially if you're not actually competing for a certain spot, that does not help you all come together to get this music off, to get this music done and done well. But then again, I have heard that kind of thing has happened, that there have been jazz greats who folks in their band hated each other, and somehow the band leader made it. I think that happened. I don't want to get it wrong, but I think that's happened with like Duke Ellington. He had people in his band who hated each other. They found a way to make it work. Don't know how. Maybe that's the genius of Duke.
That's a great point. Yes.
But I know that when I played music, I want to get some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
Even when I play music and I get paid for it, I want to be enjoying myself. So if the environment doesn't work towards that, then it's not a whole success. And I would hope that someone doesn't come over with that's the only way to do music. That even in a competitive environment, that you're fighting each other instead of working together to get this done. Because if all you've done after all your rehearsals is come with a bloody nose,
right?
I mean, what have you gained?
Exactly. Yeah. I agree totally. I wonder if the movie is supposed to be an observation piece of an instructor who wants to find that one genius out of 50 or 100 or hundreds of pupils. He may not find them. He's seen times that he's gotten close, but he gets to the point that he's starting to give up. And in his giving up, he begins to get more and more agitated, which is not a way to instruct. And so the point that you make about Miles Teller's character not having any enjoyment in the whole film until that ending is paramount, because whether you're cooking, whether you're filming movies, whether you're learning to sing, you should be able to get up and go in the morning and go to that class or that practice or that whatever in between as excited as you did the previous day. And J.K. Simmons began to smother that. And so I think that Miles's character, Andrew, was a rarity because he was almost destined, meaning no matter what he could have faced, with the exception of maybe Terrence killing him, he still would have somehow turned it into what he had to, because it was what he was designed to become. But as you said, what about all the other ones that were passed and thrown to the waste and laid to the side? And think about the embarrassment that he gave, that J.K. Simmons character gave the guy who he was trying to ask, was he in tune? Someone's not in tune in my class. Wait a minute. All right, you play. No, it's not you. You play. No, it's not you. All right, what do you think that you were in tune? And that whole spiel, which in a movie is introducing you to how crazy Terrence can get to get what he wants. And movies do that sometimes, where they kind of bring someone in as a villain to show you the extent of which they'll go. It's almost like a bad guy killing one of his top henchmen just to show you, I'll do what I have to do. Exactly. Yeah. But it got to a point where everyone was nervous to be around him. And so I understand it being a piece in which you're watching one teacher's, if you look at it from his eyes, chance to finally find the person who may be this talent, this diamond in the rough. And the hardship that he faces and almost losing his job and then finally losing his job. But his means was never the best to begin with. How do you feel, real quick, about Andrew finally having to blow the whistle on him and saying what he had to say to get him to actually lose his job?
Well, I remember that he had to be like coaxed into it,
Yeah,
which I think part of this whole thing was, Andrew really wanting to be at that level.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
it's understandable to want success for yourself. I feel after the after the first chair is thrown at me, I'm done. I'm done in one.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's me.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
he
That
felt
that would be me too.
maybe he felt it was an acceptable price, even though he'd already been attacked multiple times, hit upside the head, almost lost his life.
Right, the car
The,
accident.
the car the car accident, and
Yeah,
even after he finally was convinced to turn a teacher in, and he had stopped doing music for who knows how long, was
yeah,
working at that store or whatever, then all
yeah.
it took was this guy to look at him for a minute, and he's all the way back in.
Right back,
So
right back.
so it's almost like he was addicted to whatever this is that he
Yeah,
was going through, because it's not just music. Like I said, I don't feel he was enjoying it.
yeah,
But I guess chasing that success, that perfection, at a point where past the point where it's not healthy for him at all. So
right.
yeah, I mean, it's almost like they kind of, I don't know, maybe they were codependent, that
Mm.
Fletcher saw the talent in him and his methods were
Mm-hmm.
abusive.
Right.
And so that's one side of it.
Yeah.
And then the student, I mean, he's just doing whatever it takes, even long past the time that he should have bailed out,
Yes.
because he
Yeah.
wanted it that bad, knowing what he was in for.
Right. Yeah. It
And
comes to a
he
point.
came right back to it. Like, all right,
Right.
all right.
It comes to a point when it's like, when does endurance become you being letting yourself be punished?
Right.
You have to draw the line somewhere. And some people have different levels of what they will take, or different levels of pain, or different levels of stress, but this is becoming insane. So, to make a long story short, we get to the point where, as you said, they meet back up, and Terrence invites him to come and perform with him one final time. And before we delve into that end performance, um, I've been able to look at things in a different light since I first watched the film, which is, how do you feel about this? Do you think that Terrence Fletcher was trying to get revenge on Andrew? Or do you think that he somehow knew that this would be the line to where Andrew either succumbed to his time that he, placed his thumb over him, or that Andrew would hop that line and become almost otherworldly? Did did
Yeah.
did Terrence know what he was setting him up for, or was it just strictly just, I owe you one, I found out you did it, I'm going to set this elaborate thing up to make it so that you're as humiliated, or even a fraction, as I was to have everything stripped?
He seemed surprised when Andrew decided to take over the band thing,
Mm-hmm.
and Andrew introducing the next song. So I didn't see that there was a plan beyond, okay, I know you got me fired.
Oh, okay.
You were dumb enough to come back to me.
Right. Right.
And so I'm going to hurt you one more time because I want to hurt you.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be, to me, incidental that the boy got good enough to actually finally get, I guess, one good drum solo out after all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Okay. It didn't seem like there was much of a plan there.
Okay.
So, and it didn't match with the way he'd been treating him and others throughout the entire film. That's why I had asked the question: Are you 100% trying to pull talent out of all these people who you're abusing, or are you just abusing them?
Yeah.
And pulling talent, or I don't know, things that look like they're pulling talent, is the way that you're abusing people, because even to your own detriment. Because even at the end, it's not just that because the drummer was playing the wrong song that the drummer looks bad. Everybody in there looks bad.
That's true. That's true.
So,
and you can see the looks on their faces.
Yeah, everybody
while these
looks
two
bad.
are having this struggle.
Right.
You know, and then the people in the audience are looking like,
right.
And the judges or whoever they were,
and you're wasting the judge's time and the audience's time. You're doing all of that just to get back at this kid
exactly
who got you fired, you know, for all the right reasons. So that's why I don't think he was continuing to try to pull talent out of him at that point.
Okay.
That's why I don't think that. I mean, maybe it was worth it. I mean, you know, the movie ends there. We don't see what happened next. I saw an interview with the director where he was saying that if the movie were to actually continue, and this was something that I guess he had planned but never filmed, that the after effects of all this would be that Andrew would eventually, you know, end up overdosed on drugs, chasing that perfection that he never gets. So that was part of what was in the director's vision for whatever the future of after this scene was. Again, we're not going to see it, but that's why I asked, you know, at what cost? All of this abuse. You found one drummer, and his hands are still bleeding. Leaving aside the fact that I've heard from drummers that, you know, if your hands are bleeding, you're doing something wrong. It's not. Oh, you're such a trooper. Oh, you're so dedicated. Oh, you're so
right. Yeah.
Your hands bleeding when you drumming. You did it wrong.
But you're punishing yourself.
You're punishing yourself. But again, okay, fine. It does show us how far he was willing to go, even if he did it wrong, whatever. Because that's a larger point. Not so much does this movie match real life. That's never the point.
Right.
But yeah.
So then in my case, above all of the acting, above all of the things that Andrew had to face and to overcome, all of the obstacles that will hurl his way, just like that symbol, you get to the moment that he decides to walk off of the stage because he's been embarrassed. He goes to his father, who embraces him and lets him know it's okay, basically, to fail. I've done it before. Life goes on. It's not that big a deal. And it seemed at that moment that he decided to choose road A instead of road B, which is, let's just get in the car and go home, have some popcorn with some Raisinets. Yeah. And instead he turns around, goes back on stage, and in the middle of Terrence talking to the band about what's the next song, to the audience about what's the next song, starts playing. And I have no reason to kid you. My heart was already invested because of how I would feel if I was, I don't want to say betrayed, because they didn't have that to begin with, but set up for failure with the one thing that I wanted to do since it seemed like I was born. And so when he turned around, my heart started to skip a beat. And then when he got back on the stage, it started to drum up a little bit more. And when he first started to play and cut Terrence off, I stood up. And he's starting to play. And for some reason, I know that the culmination of everything he's experienced has led him here. And Terrence tries to tell him, you know, what are you doing? And, you know, you need to just get out of here. And, you know, what? And he's ignoring him. And I'm like, what is gonna become of this? Are they gonna rush the stage and arrest him? Are they going to, you know, I'm seriously like, how is this gonna end? Yeah. And the range of emotion that JK went through had to put the cherry on the top to him getting that Oscar. Because what started as him being so infuriated slowly began to whittle down to, wait a minute, he's hitting all the right notes. And we're on stage, and the rest of the, you know, band, is the jazz band, is looking like, you know, he's not messing up. And I've got the audience behind me and the judges, and they're seeing this. Let me entertain this a little bit. And it came to the point where Miles hit the cymbal or something so hard he almost knocked it over. And JK came and fixed it. And I got like chills And I'm standing up, like I said, and he's doing his thing, and it's like I can tell that the solo is going way longer than it should, but they're allowing for it because it's almost like a butterfly out of a cocoon. And as it swells, JK rips his shirt off, whatever else, gets, and I'm like, I can't believe this is, everything that led up to it was one thing. But in 2014, that was the film ending that pulled emotion out of me. It wasn't a horror, it wasn't a comedy, and it wasn't a thriller. It was that drama and that ending. And when he got to the final moment to get ready to bring in Whiplash, and hit that symbol or whatever it was that final time, it was like I just almost could have just fell back down in my chair, like, oh, and I could have been perspiring a little bit, How did you feel about the actual, the way that they summed up that whole story?
Well, one thing that happened at the end was the moment you mentioned when Andrew knocked the when he knocked the symbol over.
Right.
And Fletcher put it back up again. I was like, oh, they're finally working with each other.
Right.
Yeah, and then at the end, when the solo was ending and he brought it down and he was like directing him as they go down, do all that stuff. I was like, wow, they're finally working together. And
my goodness,
because of what I was mentioning about the whole working together thing in a band, I was waiting for that the whole movie, like
right.
I didn't really know it until it was there, but then because Fletcher had been so abusive, I'm skeptical of this moment that should have had me standing up on the couch.
Okay.
Because I'm like, how's he gonna cap this off and destroy this young man one more time? Because he gonna do it. There's nothing that has stopped this man from abusing this person who I guess is clearly crossed the line in his world. Embarrassed him, gotten him fired. So I was waiting for him to do something else crazy. Thankfully, the movie ended before that happened. So that's how I processed that ending. That I wanted to be happy because again, they're finally working together. But I didn't believe it was genuine because this man has lied before. So
yeah.
So that's how I responded to the ending.
I got you. Overall, I thought that the directing was it was good. There was nothing short. There was nothing under what I expected or hoped for. It wasn't phenomenal, but it was a very good job at directing. The acting, and as you said, those two who could have had it be a play with just two people rose. To be honest, Miles, I never really appreciated his acting until giving it an opportunity in this film. And it changed me a bit going on from here. The script was, I thought, very, very good with the whole going back and forth between the two of them. Rewatchability, I personally think that it was really rewatchable because every time that I've seen it since, my pulse races at those same moments. Knowing full time that the car crash is going to happen when it does, and it still shocks me, and it still is like, oh man, how's he going to get back on? And he tries to pick himself up and go back and run all the way to the place just to be turned away, and leading all up into that final thing where and when his dad looks through the door and sees him continuing, just that look, the fifth element I would give if I had to would be that ending, because that's something that I would bottle up and ship out to different films and say, this is how you crescendo into something, that is highly rewardable. I think that I'm leaning towards a low, highly recommended. I've told a lot of people about it. I've put a lot of people onto it. I watched it with the wife, and by the end, we're both like, "Oh Lord, oh my goodness!" You've gone through the whole wave of emotions. So, I do believe that 2014's film. I do believe that it was highly rewatchable. What do you feel about Whiplash?
So I'll say off the bat, I liked it.
Okay.
I think my only issue was with things that I understand are going to be heightened in a movie to make it interesting. But my only issue would be with the plot. Not anything in specific, but because of the things that I mentioned. I think that somebody doing any of the things that Fletcher did would have been dealt with way sooner. And especially in light of all the witnesses there were to the things that he had done. But I don't know, maybe this is a place where, cops don't listen to music students. Maybe.
Right? Oh my goodness.
Maybe that's it. But I think especially when the slapping came in, I'm like, okay, whatever. Nah.
Yeah, but, about the timing. Yeah.
But again, I understand that that's not the point. That there are there are other issues that are under the microscope here, and this is the way the director chose to play them out. So I understand why those things are there. But I think that was really the only issue that I had. I agree with you on pretty much everything else. The script is fine. The editing, I like the editing. Of course, I like the music because I'm into jazz. So there you go. Really, you got to play. All you got to do is play a nice song for me, and I'm like, oh, I recommend it. But as with some other movies, what they did worked. In my opinion. If there was a fifth element for me, it would be the music. Just because I thought it was good. It was great at showcasing the talent that was on display, especially the drummer. But all told, I would put it at a solid. I liked it.
Gotcha. This was an exhibition in not only fine music, but what it takes to overcome the oppression of someone trying to get in between you and what you're destined to do. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, what did you feel about the movie Whiplash? It comes highly recommended by me, and Kevin liked it also. But how do you feel? Please drop a comment, let us know. And until that time, Javon.
I'm Kevin.
And we saw that.